Hey guys, what is up? Pixelborn here, back with episode 2 of How to Make Pong. So last time we ended, I think basically all we had done was gotten the player to move. And we had sort of, this. The ball will move. Um, but I don't think that this is what we want. So right now we're using transform.translate to move the ball, which is fine if you want something to do something completely different than what we wanted to do right now. Basically what we wanted to do is when the scene loads, we want to add a add force. See if I can remember which function add force is under. Okay, so after a little bit of Googling, it looks like what we want to do is we want to access this thing's rigid body. So this is going to require us to call the rigid body of the ball. So I'm going to make a new variable that is the rigid body equals get component body 2D. Okay, so again, after a little bit of Googling, I was correct. We do have to use game object, and we will we also have to call this game object a ball that we might need at some point. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just calling this this ball, and then from that ball I'm going to grab our rigid body. Although it looks like I probably used a 2D rigid body because I'm dumb. No, or 3D. I did use a 2D rigid body. Why is this not working? Oh, it is working. It just took a second. Okay, so now that we've called both of those, what we can do is we can access the ball's rigid body and add force in a vector 2, so it's x, y, so it's going to be like, we want it to go towards the player, so we'll say like -3. Oh, we got to put that in parentheses. And then we're going to change the force mode to impulse. Sorry, this syntactical stuff is like always a little weird for me. There, that should be right. I always forget you have to call a new vector 2 when you use it inside of a function. So let's see what happens now. Absolutely nothing. Wow, that's fun. Okay, so let's try like -1000. Let's see if the number wasn't big enough or if we did something wrong. Okay, so the number wasn't big enough because the ball just flew off into infinity. So let's try something like -30. A lot of using Unity, I feel like, is just messing with values like this. Okay, so it did the same thing. So let's try like -10. A lot of Unity is just like trying values like this once you know that something works. It still seems like it's flying off into outer space. But -3 didn't do anything last time we used it. Oh, now it's like way too much. Okay, so I know what's going on. It's doing it, it's moving extremely fast So maybe if we add time.delta time, that'll slow it down. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. And then when we hit it, it stops. So we also want to, you'll notice when the ball hits us, if it hits the top, our paddle starts rotating. So that's probably not good. We probably don't want that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna freeze our rotation on the X and Y axis so that we cannot rotate. Now when the ball hits it, nothing happens except the ball stops. So that's cool. That is a very good start for the video. The other thing we're gonna do is so the next thing I kind of want to do is the ball has to bounce. So we gotta get it so the player object is bouncy. And you know, I'm not 100% sure how we're gonna do that, so let me do some Googling and I will get right back to you guys. Okay, so it looks like there is a difference between materials and physics materials. So we're gonna create a new folder in Unity and call it physics materials. It's good to create folders for everything just to keep everything sort of in just like organized so you know where everything is when you need it. We're gonna try a bounciness of 1 and then we're gonna put that on the player. If it works well, we'll put it on the other. Yeah, look at that. Pong. Although we are still rotating, it looks like. I'm not sure why that is. Is it a Z rotation? Is that why? So it looks like we're still rotating when we hit right there. Oh, now we're not. It was a Z rotation. Okay. There we go. Good first step. Now that we know that this new physics material works, we will rename it Bouncy. And we'll also throw it on our enemy. So that was actually fairly quick, fairly painless. You know, we can hit the ball at different angles. Oh, I should probably add rigid bodies to these walls as well. We can use a 3D rigid body then, that's fine. Normally you would use a 2D rigid body on all of this stuff, but since these are 3D, I guess we could put new colliders on them too, and then we could use 2D rigid bodies. That might actually be a better idea. What do they call them? Oh, it's just block collider 2D. Couldn't remember if they were called like square collider or something. I don't know why they would be, but and then we'll just put our 2D rigid bodies on them. And then we need to change gravity to 0. And we also need to put the bouncy physics material on both of these so that when the ball hits these, it bounces off like it should. Okay, we're going to change the gravity to 0 on this one as well. And then we're going to drag the bouncy material on there. So now if we hit the ball up, it should bounce off the wall. Nice. Cool. So that's kind of just the basics of the player movement and the ball physics and all that kind of stuff. Now comes the part that I think is probably the most difficult to wrap your head around, at least it is for me, is how to get the enemy, the AI, I guess, how to like program AI and how to get it to, oh, I've got to open it first, and how to get it to follow the ball. That's the tough part. Ah yes, I did something dumb. We're gonna delete this script because you should never put spaces in your script names because then they don't work. So Or maybe they do and I just did something dumb that I didn't realize. But there, now it worked. Okay, so basically all we want this to do is we're going to use a function that I am fairly unfamiliar with, actually, called move towards. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get this game object, and we're going to call it the same way we called the other one. And then we're also going to call its rigid body. Cool. So we're going to pull those, and then I'm going to go figure out how to do move towards, and I will be right back. Alright, so now we're going to use this function called move towards. So, to my understanding, basically what we're going to do is we're going to access our transform, and then we can use move towards, or our rigid body, probably, most likely. Alright guys, so I think I've got it now. What we do is we do transform.position is equal to, and then we call vector2 dot move towards, and then we have 3 arguments. We have our current vector2, which is going to be our transform position, and then our vector2 target, which is going to be a new vector2, and that vector2 is going to be should be our position on the x-axis, and then the ball's position. Okay, there we go. So ball.transform position.y, and then we will determine the speed, which is going to be, what is our player's speed? 2. So 2 times time dot delta time. Just clean it up a little bit here. It's going to give us an error for now because it doesn't know what ball is. So that's fine. We're just going to create a game object called ball and then define it here. And theoretically, everything should work. In theory. So this means that it should move towards the Y position of the ball. Something is clearly wrong. Now the question is, what is it? Alright guys, so I have figured out what the problem is, and I will show you guys, and it's very odd. So, since I am using, since I was using a vector 2, I'll show you guys now. So, I already troubleshooted it, but I already figured out what was wrong. But I'm going to show you guys what was wrong. So, basically what I did was I wanted to see where the enemy was. So I went into a scene and I double clicked on it. Turns out it was moving the enemy's Z position so that it was hidden from view. So actually, if you watch, the ball still bounces because the enemy is still there. It's just on the Z position, like this way. The third dimension that we can't see when we're in 2D, it's behind the background. Because the background is at 0 and so is the enemy, and just because of the way the layers work, the background gets priority. So it was behind. So basically, all we have to do is we have to convert this vector 2 into a vector 3, and then make sure that the z-axis doesn't change. And that should solve our problem. Oops, I double clicked. So if you guys notice now, if I hit it, well, if I hit it in a direction, it will move. This game of Pong would probably be infinite because also it's clipping a little bit through the walls. And it looks like it's bouncing. It bounced off at such a low velocity that the ball is moving extremely slowly. And the enemy is just moving along with it. So let's fix that. First of all, let's vastly increase the speed that the ball comes out. Let's make it like negative. Let's double it for now. See how fast that is. Yeah, that's a lot better. So now we shouldn't have this problem. Now our problem is that the angle that the ball is bouncing off at is kind of like really flat because of the way that our colliders are shaped. So how we're going to fix this is we are going to actually put round colliders on these so that the angle that it bounces off at is a lot more varied. And then we're just going to drag these physics materials back onto the objects. Colliders. You always want to check your colliders when you put new ones on, because you never really know how it's going to auto make the colliders. So now you'll see like it's a lot easier to bounce. And the thing, I guess really the last thing left to do is to make it so there's a score UI and the game kind of resets itself basically every time you score. So next week we're going to be building the UI and implementing the scoring function and reloading the scene and doing all of that stuff to kind of make the game complete. I'm probably not going to make like a start screen for it or anything, because this is just really more like a quick tutorial on like really low level stuff for Unity. So we're just going to be making the UI and then making the scoring, and then I think the game will be done. I also have a new game that I'm kind of working on. I know I did a devlog before in another game, but I feel like the scope of that game is just really large. So I decided to maybe start working on something else, and next week I might have a devlog for it. It depends on how much of the art and stuff I can get done, if I really have anything to show you guys. But if I do, I will definitely show you guys. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and if you want to see devlogs and more tutorials like this, then subscribe, and yeah, thank you.